Hello and welcome into the Pucks Out podcast. This is episode number 1. I am your host, Bobby Butler, and with me as always is Mr. Brandon Bond.
Hey,
We're here in the Standing Stone Farm studio right outside downtown Nashville. How are you doing today, good sir?
man, just ready to talk some sports as usual, Bob.
Well, we got a lot to cover today, and we're going to have some fun. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Let's talk a little bit how this got started. It was a couple months ago. Brandon and I were sitting in the Lexus Lounge in Bridgestone Arena at the KISS concert.
Having a few cold ones, if I remember correctly.
A little more than a few.
Or don't remember correctly, right?
And we had a drunken idea that we should start a podcast, that everyone likes to hear our ridiculous takes on hockey, pop culture, sports in general.
To be fair, Bob, we have a lot of ridiculous ideas. So,
And fast forward a couple months, and we're actually sober, and I suggest it. Now, a couple weeks later, and here we are. But I think what we want to talk about the most right now is we recently just got back from the Winter Classic down in Dallas, Texas.
old Dallas, Texas.
It was a great time. Dallas was fun. Great experience. People were nice. Weather wasn't too bad. Not too cold. Not too hot. I think it was in about the 50s, 60s the whole time.
Yeah.
Little
yeah.
windy at the Cotton Bowl. How'd you like it, Brandon?
Man, I had a blast. It was a awesome experience. Great seats. You could see the whole ice from where we were. We got to see one of the greatest walk of shames in the history of anything during the game. I think that we all enjoyed that Corey Perry walk of shame. Maybe not Ryan Ellis. He probably didn't enjoy it nearly as much. But what a great city. We had a good time. I think we've discussed as far as our hockey travels go, it probably wasn't as good of a hockey town as Minneapolis was.
No.
You know, I mean, the city didn't nearly embrace it as much as you would have liked. There was times that people in bars and restaurants that had no idea that the game was even going on. And I mean, come on, the Cotton Bowl, you think this is the mecca of places to go and watch an event, seemed a little lackluster until we actually got there. Nashville showed up, didn't they?
Yeah, lots of gold.
Lots of gold, yeah, for sure. What did they say, like 22?
22 and a half,
22,000?
almost 23,000
Yeah.
in total out of 86,000 it was?
You could tell. I mean, how many
Well,
times?
86,000 minus 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they let Corey Perry
Well, I guess
stick
plus
around.
1 because he actually got to watch the game.
He probably, yeah. So it was
that's plus 1 to the attendance.
an additional Dallas fan was probably watching. No, I mean, there were many times we walked into bars or restaurants. It was a Nashville takeover in there,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it was quite a few folk. What about that Brain Dead Brewery event on New Year's Eve, man?
Yeah, shout out to the Ultimate Predator for setting that up. I don't think they were ready for what Nashville had to bring, but it was a fun time. There's some stories that we were certainly telling in an episode. I won a jersey. Someone tried to steal that jersey.
We'll have to wait till the statute of limitations
Yeah.
end for some.
Moving on. We're going to cover some news, and there's been a lot of news. There's always the coaching carousel in the NHL, but one thing I want to cover that's still in the news is the Kassian and Tkachuk situation that went down. Now, for those of you who are living under the rock, Matthew Tkachuk laid a couple, I'll call them fringe clean hits on Zach Kassian. Zach Kassian then proceeded to beat the living crap out of the man. And we now have a new turtle in the NHL.
That's true.
So we've got the rat, and now we've got a turtle.
Man, we're going to get a whole zoo in the NHL before it's all said and done. For those of you that don't know, Zach Kassian is not a guy that you want to throw a bunch of fringe clean hits on, though. If that makes any sense out there. I'm telling you, I mean, what do you think about it? What are your thoughts on the whole ordeal?
Well, I think Tkachuk had it coming. I think Kassian's in the right. Suspension is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he jumped him. He jumped him pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, I can see why he got
I
suspended.
mean, the Tkachuk's gloves didn't come off, so you've got to get at least I think 5.
He got a major and was basically out the rest of the game.
Yeah,
Then
but
plus the 2.
That should have been about it.
Tkachuk didn't get anything. I mean, he didn't do anything. Like we said, they're fringe cleans.
Yeah.
Hit. A note for people that were talking about him getting jumped, though. I mean,
That wasn't jumped.
How you get jumped by the guy you just hit, man? You got beat up by the guy that you laid a hit on.
And it's not like this was an open ice, very clean by the book hit.
Right. You turned your back on this guy after doing it to him twice.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you just
Now,
did
that
it
second
once,
hit
so.
that immediately that preceded the fight, that was a little bit cleaner than the first hit
Yeah,
was bad.
no.
That first hit was predatorial.
No, but at the same time, I mean, Kassian said it best. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, "Look, I'm cool to take the suspension. I'm happy to do the time. this is big. It's a big boy game. I can deal with the big boy consequences, but sometimes if you're going to act like that, you got to step up and handle your business, and it didn't look like Tkachuk wanted to. So,
and I think after the break, his first game back is gonna be against the Flames.
Oilers. Yeah, I'm gonna suggest you stay up till 3:00 in the morning to watch that one.
One of those times I'm very thankful I have the center ice package.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna record that.
Now, do you think Tkachuk
week.
will answer the bell when Kassian comes calling?
Absolutely not. We already discussed.
Yeah.
We already led into this by giving his new nickname the Turtle.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any way that now.
So Gaudreau better watch out.
Now you mentioned off air that Kassian may try to go after Gaudreau, right? I don't know if that's something that he's going to look to do, but if he comes out there and he plays dirty and does that, we'll talk about him next time on the pod.
All right, so moving on now. We have some more news. We were originally, when we wrote out this episode, we were going to talk about the firing of Peter Laviolette and the hiring of John Hines. But since then, in the ever-moving carousel that is NHL coaches...
We're just going to talk about new hires.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, it's a new week. That means there's a new coach in the NHL. And now, Peter DeBoer has been hired by Las Vegas after they got rid of Gerard Gallant.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm going to interject here. I don't understand that. For a guy that took an expansion team roster and took it to the Stanley Cup in its first year, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It seems like Vegas is right there on the cusp of another playoffs. It's a really interesting move to me. I don't know if I understand it.
Something must have happened off ice because honestly,
had to be.
You know, they were at the time. I believe they were only 3 or 4 points out of first place in the Pacific.
Yeah, the Pacific.
And that was a week after winning 4 games in a row. They are currently sitting in the number 1 wild card spot. I mean, I wouldn't say there's been that much of a difference between the two coaches.
They're only like a couple points from. I mean, the Pacific is tight, meaning you lose one game, you can go from first place.
Could you imagine in any? Now I know the expansion rules are much different. This is a completely different world than the '90s. But imagine if when the Predators came in, they fired Trotz. They fired Trotz in the 3rd year because they were only the first wild card spot.
Yeah, I mean it's very intriguing. I mean, I guess I just don't understand the intricacies of it.
I'm not saying this is the answer to the problem that is the coaching carousel, but at some point, Bettman needs to do something because his job as commissioner is to make sure that the league and the teams are profitable. The constant firing coaches and paying all these salaries out are not good for the profitability of these teams. So, I mean, because all we're doing now is trading these coaches to other teams. Perhaps, something where, unless you are way back in the standings, you can't just fire a coach. You can trade them or something.
Well, you can argue that we're talking about it, though, right now, Bob. I mean, it's so I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that necessarily. The casual fan doesn't know or care unless they love that coach. I mean, we probably still have some diehard Lavi fans that are here. And by the way, personal opinion, I think Lavi is Gene Hackman from Hoosiers. It always seems like you got to get 5 passes before you take a shot. And so it's been nice to get some early shots on net having John Hines here. Let's move on and talk about the John Hines hire. How are your feelings and thoughts on it?
If you would have asked me 2 months ago, I was firmly in the Lavi needs more time. That train left the station very quick after what I've been seeing the on-ice performance happening.
It seemed like David Poile gave him a lot of opportunities to right the ship.
And it is almost clear to me that if it wasn't for the Winter Classic, he would have been gone before the Winter Classic. But he earned the right to coach in what is one of the best games outside the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Sure. Well, and it seemed like they gave him some time to right the ship after that. After,
they gave him he had a long leash. And honestly, he deserved a long leash.
Yeah.
It's, he has done great things for that team.
But this is about his cycle with teams.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets there to about year 5, 5.5, 6 years, and
obviously,
Lavi's run its course.
His message starts to get old.
Yeah. It's all rumors and stuff around.
And now, let's be honest, you and I, we've never been in a NHL locker room.
No.
Eventually we might get a guest on who has.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Right.
And we can talk about the coaches' messages getting old, how they changed them up over time.
Well, we can talk about how we saw it from the outside, though, and it just seemed, the rumors you hear, he didn't have the locker room. And, McCarthy is the special teams coach. That speaks for itself right there.
Yeah.
Look at what our power play. It's funny. We joke around, but it's almost in half seriousness that we're cheering for a power play just because it took the other player off the ice.
That's when I use the restroom when we go to power play.
Yeah, it's our power play has been lackluster at most, and with the guys that we have here, look at that Philip Forsberg goal. You know, we're not.
We have the pure talent.
We have the talent.
And let me tell you,
score
as
power
a
play
Redskins fan, I know what it's like to have all the talent, Santana Moss, and just it never come to anything. And the Predators are in danger of that happening.
Yeah.
And luckily, David Poyle hopefully he's going to right the ship. Big decision halfway through the year.
Well, it looked like they got their guy, too. I mean, they didn't interview a bunch of people. John Hines went on the market, and then you just started hearing chatterings.
If this had happened 2 weeks later, would you have rather had Gallant come over? Or are you happy with John Hines over having Gallant?
No, I think I like the Hines hire because, number one, I mean, you got to trust a guy like David Poyle, has taken this has hired 3 head coaches in its entire existence. I think you got to trust that guy, and with the connections that John Hines seemingly has to our front office, I think that's super helpful to have people that know him, that can talk to him if there's problems or issues. It's not a bunch of people getting to know each other. That is valuable, and especially, I hit a little bit on it a little later, but I mean, he did some good things with the Devils. I mean, the Devils were not looking hot, and then John Hines took them to the playoffs. We're even going to be talking about Taylor Hall in a little bit, so I mean, we can kind of touch a little bit more on John Hines when we speak to that. But I mean, I like the hire. I don't think that I'd want Gallant. I mean, I know that he was successful in Vegas, but it could be the same thing. Is the message stale? Is it, do players buy in, or players buying into it? What is, what kind of coaches is he bringing
just to
along?
finish up this before we move on, a lot of people understood that first Boston game was not truly the start of the John Hines, but I will go as far as to say that honestly, the games that we have seen since after the Boston game, since the All-Star break, have been a hybrid Peter Laviolette, John Hines thing. You got to understand, those guys have muscle memory from Peter Laviolette.
Well, and you can't just change everything.
Yeah, exactly. So
either,
people who are judging John Hines off that stretch, don't rush to judgment. I think that what happens after the All-Star break, we are officially in the John Hines era, starting that Toronto Maple Leafs game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm going to be in attendance.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there, and we'll see what we call the official start of the John Hines era.
So that'll be good to see. He'll have a little bit of a break, get the players a break. Winning that Buffalo game right before the break was big. The way that people are talking and thinking about John Hines right now is worlds different if he loses that Buffalo game.
Yeah,
you
got to win before the break.
That's a long time from the All-Star break. We don't play again until next Monday, so over a week of people just stewing about that John Hines fella. He doesn't know, you know how Tennessee hockey fans
knows how to stew on
things.
Yeah,
they definitely do. They definitely do. So let's move into the new All-Star game sweaters. I personally like them. I think that you hate them. Is that correct?
They are one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. They are horrid.
Well, I mean, you get to have that when you go on a vacation in Missouri. Mid-year, you did good. You did your job perfectly.
Missouri in January.
You did your job perfectly this year. You're so good that you're one of our top guys. We're going to give you a vacation. And where you get to go? St. Louis. But you had mentioned to me off air that they look like prison uniforms.
Without a doubt.
To be fair, though, Bobby, they are going to St. Louis. Yeah. So do you think that they're going to play this in like a prison yard, like a longest yard type situation?
I mean, obviously.
I liked them. There was some that it worked better than others. Some they just made super weird fluorescent colors. Chicago, they went black and white. It's like they ran out of ink. They said, well, we're not going to have any Chicago guys. So
yeah. They're not going to have to actually make those.
They're not going to. It's supposed to be a music sheet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The lines behind. It's supposed to be a music sheet.
It's too bad that city doesn't have any historic landmark.
Yeah.
Something that is in a shape that works perfectly going around a logo.
Maybe if the city was like a gateway to something.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
It's a gateway to murder, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, we'll think on it, and we can maybe get back to them on the potential logo change. But yeah, some worked, some didn't. They're nothing to write home about.
One thing that I'm really excited about the All-Star game is the women's 3-on-3 U.S. versus Canada. That is, in my opinion, going to be the highlight of the weekend.
I agree. I mean, you get a lot of these guys out there in the regular 3-on-3, and they're just there to have fun. I mean, understandably, they don't want to get hurt. They're all playing for cups, or most of them are. And, you know, they're not going to not play hard, but they're going to give it a probably 50-60% effort.
Yeah. Whereas these women are going to go full out.
They're showcasing women's hockey.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they know that they've got a big stage of individuals that maybe wouldn't ever get to see any women's hockey without seeking it out. And, you know, a lot of people will watch hockey just because their boyfriend or their husband or their wife loves it. But, you know, you may not seek out that 11 a.m. on a Saturday college football, you know, World Juniors women's game, you know? So I think that this is going to be a great opportunity to showcase that. I mean, look what they've done. You got to give it to Gary Bettman. He's increasingly included women's hockey into the All-Star weekend, where last year they ended up going and getting Kendall Schofield actually did the skills competition. Came in 7th place in the speed skating.
Behind McDavid?
No, I think she came in 7th, but they were but 1 through 7 were all within a second of one another.
Yeah.
I mean, so fast that McDavid said that after he went, he thought she won. So, I mean, she was I mean, you think about it. You're skating 1 second behind the guy that's won this event 3 years in a row. Is argued. I mean, not argued. I would say that it's a pretty consensus of this is the new up and coming superstar of the league. If there weren't a couple of other guys that were still playing that were ahead of him, I don't think that there's not many guys you would start your roster with if they restarted and did a draft right now. And I think Connor McDavid is one of those guys. So for him to say that about Miss Schofield and her ability, I just can't wait to get to see some real hard hitting 3-on-3 hockey, because I mean 3-on-3 hockey's fun anyway. That's a fun thing to watch, and yes, it's fun to watch those NHL players do it and act all crazy and stuff. But these girls are going to be playing real hard. I think every player from both U.S. and Canada, they're all on the Olympic squad. Is that correct?
I think either all or a majority.
So these are girls that are looking to win gold medals for the U.S. and for Canada. So for us to be able to watch this and then be highlighted, I think that's an awesome thing that the NHL is doing.
So one thing I do want to talk about is NHL players skipping the All-Star game after they've gotten voted in. I get, you know, this doesn't pay their bills, that, you know, that they want to rest up. I think that there should be some form, I don't want to say punishment, but I think that, you know, if you're voted in by if you're the captain, you should maybe not get suspended if you don't play the game. Maybe you have to show up there and do fanfare, but you don't actually play.
Yeah, I mean, they should definitely be there doing the fanfare. I
100%
agree with that. I mean, it sucks. Obviously, those guys that get voted in, if it's everybody or if it's just the captains, those captains are getting voted in a lot of times by name recognition.
Yeah, Brian Boyle got voted in one year. I mean,
because it's who the specific area wants. So yeah, it sucks, but I understand it. I mean, everybody wants to hoist the Stanley Cup, so to maybe go out there and potentially get hurt, I can see that being. Or I mean, if you're just playing a long, grueling season and you need a break, you need an All-Star break,
especially guys like Ovi. I mean, they're not young anymore,
right?
And maybe I think that if you make it into the All-Star game, and if it's your first time ever getting into the All-Star game, you have to play.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're a second-year guy and you get to the All-Star game, you can't use I'm almost 40 years old.
I guess the big question is more to you as a fan. Do you want worse hockey at the expense of a guy playing when he's forced to, or do you maybe want to see a guy that you wouldn't have seen unless it was the All-Star game?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree that they should be able to skip, and I think that they shouldn't be suspended. Yeah. It shouldn't just be, all right, whatever, you don't want to play, no big deal, next guy up.
I think that they should have to forfeit their trip to St. Louis.
Oh no,
their mid-season vacation, Bob, because you're forgetting
or in
about
this case,
that.
You're forced to go to St. Louis.
Every year past this year, if you skip the All-Star game, you have to go hang out in St. Louis for the week, which is almost as dangerous. You just might as well play at that time, you know. So yeah, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It sucks, and you want to see those guys, but you can't pretend like All-Star. I mean, I'm not saying that you are, but you can't pretend All-Star weekend isn't one of the most fun things anyway. Hardest shot competition, speed skating, the skills competition. I mean, these guys do such ridiculous stuff that we never get to see because they have grown men trying to hit them, and so we get to see a lot of that. So I think it's exciting one way or the other.
They are introducing a new all-star competition. You're up on a 30-foot platform in the stands behind the goal.
Are they crowd diving?
And you're shooting the puck all like up in the air down into the targets. And I sent you an article about it the other day.
I don't read anything you send me, Bob.
Yeah, I figured.
No, that sounds awesome. It sounds like they're just going to go to the St. Louis Topgolf.
I mean,
Just play, they're like, hey, get the sticks out there. They said, sir, you got to hit it with the ball. And then they look at the grown hockey players and say, you know what? Let's let them do what they want.
yeah.
They're already drunk. We're not even going to fight this. But no, that sounds cool. I mean, I would like to see how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it. But I mean, the premise-wise, it sounds cool. It sounds like I should have read that article that you sent me. Maybe I'll think about reading some of the stuff you send my way.
So, moving on from the All-Star game.
I got a topic I want to bring up. What do you think? We're talking about suspensions, and we got to talking about injuries a little earlier. What do you think about a player having to sit out? This is something that me and my buddy Brandon Wheeler talk about a lot. If you injure a player on a suspendable hit, Gary Bettman and the Player Safety Committee suspends you for 2 games, but I'm out for 7 games. What do you think about you as a player having to sit out for 7 games and then 2 additional games past that? Because right now, Corey Perry got 5 games for that hit on Ryan Ellis that he gave us the greatest walk of shame ever, but at what cost? He missed 5 games where Ellis, one of the top defenders in the league, having one of his best seasons of all time, is now currently on game 8 with no viewpoint of getting back. A head injury can be, we've seen it take guys like Sidney Crosby out for a whole year at a time. One of the greatest players in our generation had to sit out an entire year because of head injuries. Game 8 right now, and a team that's on the hunt for the playoffs, and now Corey Perry's back and playing again.
And let's not forget that since Ryan Ellis is even has a timetable to return, he's already laid a dirty hit on Alex Stalock. That was ridiculous. I was so happy after the Pred Sabres game that I had just gotten home, a little bit drunk. I pull up my phone. What do I see? This douchebag, Corey Perry, kneeing Alex Stalock in the head. At this point, he's dirty. He knows he's dirty. Everyone else knows Dallas fans know he's dirty. Honestly, Corey Perry should never be paid to play professional hockey again in his life.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked to Dallas fans and stuff saying the exact same thing. But you asked me, I hadn't seen that. But to be fair, I have a full-time job. I got to prepare for this podcast. I don't have time to keep up with every time that Corey Perry has a dirty hit on somebody. If I had to do that, I would have to quit my job and just follow the Dallas Stars around.
What do you think pays my bills, man? I'm a full-time Corey Perry follower.
You're the ones that write all the. You're working for the Player Safety Committee, aren't you? You're getting them out.
I'm the one guy in that office.
Closet guy.
So whenever you guys hate on, I'm dealing with a lot.
Closet guy.
I'll get to all the other stuff. I've got to deal with Corey Perry full time in the Player Safety office.
Well, and that's why you're just like 5 games, buddy. You didn't even know which hit it was for. Yeah, you don't even know what hit you're suspended him for.
We have our weekly checkup. But anyway, for my opinion on as far as him coming back, I think that it is definitely some murky water when it comes into the Players Association and contracts.
Sure. It would never work.
No, it would never work. But I do agree. Looking at things that they at least, if you get say he got a 5-game suspension, cool. You get a 5-game suspension, you serve that, but you still can't come back till Ryan Ellis is back and has been tested by a third-party doctor.
Yeah, I agree with that. Question is, well, what if a player just sits out just to make the other player sit out? Well, first of all, my answer to that is he shouldn't have had a dirty hit anyway. But an independent doctor can clear a guy to check concussions and things of the like. So it's not as if the NHL couldn't afford this burden, and I feel like it would curb some of the. You saw with the NFL when they kind of pushed this new player safety initiative. Yeah, the first couple years were a little rough, but it seems as though a lot of the bigger hits, as far as the landing on the quarterback and stuff that they were calling a lot in the early of the year, it seemed like players adjusted. You pay these guys millions of dollars. I don't feel sorry because you have to adjust how you play hockey a little bit. I don't feel like that's fair to a fan that spends his hard-earned money to go watch you play hockey, and you get paid millions of dollars, and then you get to go out there and hurt a player and ruin his season. It's not like these guys are 50, 60-year-old men. Like these guys are our age, 28, 29.
And let's not fool anybody. We love violent hockey.
Sure.
We love clean, violent hockey.
Sure.
We are the first ones in the stands to stand up when a fight breaks out, a big hip check happens.
Well, there's a difference in a big hit and elbowing somebody in the face on a drive-by. That's not even close to being a hockey play. It wasn't accidental. accidental. But even so, if you start suspending player, even if it's accidental, those plays that are fringe clean, those chuck plays that are right on the edge, they stop a little bit. I mean, nobody's saying, look, you get a clean hit, a guy sees you coming. Look, this is hockey. You're getting the same point that I'm saying you're getting paid millions of dollars. You know, you can change your game a little bit. You're getting paid millions of dollars. You can get laid out the same way. So,
all right, so to move on now, I got some stats for you real quick. A goals allowed average of 3.25 and a save percentage of .897. Now, fun fact, that is not Martin Jones, and that is not Jake Allen from 2 years ago. It is, in fact, Mr. Sergei Bobrovsky.
You're earning that contract down in Florida, isn't he, man?
Yeah, so now we're halfway through the season where we just started the All-Star break, and we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, the most shocking stuff to happen in the first half. And for me, it's the horrific start Bobrovsky's had. I mean, Florida was struggling last year. They needed some help. They needed saves. So they brought in a man who his entire career has made one thing, a lot of saves. And he's just not doing it this year. So I don't know if it's the age. He's only 31. I mean, I don't know what it could be.
Well, Joe Quenneville knows how to kill a goalie. I mean, as we've seen with Crawford and different goalies that he's had when he was in Chicago. I mean, yeah, it's super uncharacteristic of Bob. I mean, he's been a Vezina finalist a few times. He's won a Vezina trophy. So, I mean, it's just super uncharacteristic of him this time of year. I mean, that's a shock from the first half for me as well. I think what I really want to talk about is the Blue Jackets not being the worst.
They're not that bad.
They're not that bad. I mean, they're on the cusp of a playoff spot. I got a little fun fact for you. The Blue Jackets lost Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Matt Duchene after going all for it and sweeping the Lightning in the first round last year. They are currently sitting ahead of Florida, the Rangers, and the Predators in the standings after losing all three of those guys. The only big addition they got, big free agent they brought in, was Gustav Nyquist. Other than that, I mean, great pickup. He's been playing like a...
Especially for people who play fantasy.
Man, yeah, if you play some fantasy hockey, Nyquist has been killing it. So, I mean, depending on what kind of league you're playing in, he may be available to you. But Pierre-Luc Dubois, I mean, he's stepped up in the wake of losing a lot of guys. The young defenders they have, Seth Jones, Zach Werenski. I mean, their goalies have really stepped up. Korpisalo is dominating right now. Well, he's hurt right now, but they brought in a dude by the name of Elvis Merzlikins.
Solid
What a name. What a name, dude. That guy should keep the spot purely based off his name, but he actually was one of the 3 stars of the week last week, so it's not like he's using that name playing up to the hype. So go Merzlikins. Again, if we're speaking of fantasy like you were, Bob, there's not many of us out there, but for the 2 of you that are listening, you need a goalie. Go look at Merzlikins.
And I tried, and in our leagues he's taken. So.
Yeah. So some you're not going to be able to find him if you're in a pretty savvy league, but there are going to be some of you out there that might be able to grab him. So that would probably be one of my most shocking of the first half. And I think when we got to talking about doing the most first half shocking, one of the things that we both landed on was that the Coyotes are all in. Landon Taylor Hall.
And that was huge, both for the Yotes and I think, especially for you fantasy players out there, the 2 of you that are listening, Mr. Phil Kessel. Now, let's be honest. He's had a bad year overall. I think Taylor Hall Cummins is really going to help. This is a guy's an 11% career shooter. This season, he's shooting 8%. He's struggling. Too many hot dogs. I don't know what it is. I guess the fair food in Arizona is pretty good.
To be fair, Phil Kessel just looks like a guy that you'd run into at Walmart. He's not some big, imposing fella. I mean, he's like 5'6". He's balding. He has a dad bod. So, but I mean, we've seen over the years what Kessel can do given the right opportunity, and so definitely agree.
I think a lot of people we had to ask though, was that because he was on a team with Crosby?
Yeah, I mean, but he usually didn't play. Yeah, but I guess he could be picking up different lines and not playing against the superstar defenders. But I mean, he usually didn't play on either of those 2 guys' line. He usually played 3rd or 4th line and provided some deep scoring presence. So
I would buy low on him in fantasy right now.
Yeah, I mean, if he's out there, if you can make a deal for him, go for it. But I mean, with Kemper just came off the IR. That is gonna. I mean, Darcy Kemper's having one of the best years in the league right now as far as goalies go. So to get him back, I think that's gonna kind of stabilize. We talked about the Pacific earlier, how close everything is, where one game can take you from 1st to 4th, but the opposite is also true. Go from 4th to 1st with a good run. So I think that they need to come back strong after the break. But I mean, getting Hall, they sent a good few prospects. I mean, New Jersey's retaining half of the salary for Hall for the Coyotes, but I mean, they sent 2 or 3 good prospects over to New Jersey. So I mean, New Jersey though, man, wow. I mean, talking shocking.
Yeah,
I guess
that
could
hype in the preseason, and now nothing.
I mean, that could be the opposite, the shocking on the opposite end. I mean, they looked like they were going to come strong, getting Subban and kind of going back after a season of a little downturn when Taylor Hall gets hurt a year after his surging and taking them to the playoffs with John Hines there, getting a Hart Trophy. And I mean, a guy like Taylor Hall, you got to wonder though, is Taylor Hall an answer to a question? I mean, because he's been a lot of places with a lot of players, and he's been to the playoff one time, and it coincided with him having a 90-point season. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you'd like to see the Coyotes do well. It really hurt when the Coyotes, I mean, they had to watch Vegas come in and just immediately be good, and the Coyotes fans have got to be a little upset about that. I mean, it's been 20 some odd years for us as Pred fans, and those, I mean, that's hard to deal with, losing a guy like James Neal to a team that's already seeming stacked. So I hope it works out for them. I'd like to at least see them in the playoffs, and I mean, they'll be a force. They'll be a force to be reckoned with.
I want to move on to a segment we call Joke of the Week, and I think you've got something.
I found it. I mean, the joke of the week is not going to be us sitting here and telling you a joke. It is going to be us bringing something so ridiculous that after I say it, you're going to say, what a joke. That is ridiculous. So here in Tennessee, West Tennessee, the St. Louis of Tennessee, some would argue, the Whitehaven girls basketball team beats Kingsbury by a score of 110-2, Bob. That's not a joke. That's not a typo. It wasn't 110-20. It was 110-2. How does that even happen?
First off, I am so disappointed that they did that you have such an embarrassing showdown. How do you do all that and still let them score 2 points?
Yeah, Whitehaven.
You should be embarrassed of yourselves. You lost the shutout?
I hope the coach made them run for every point that the team scored over 0.
Yeah.
I literally think that you could have a girl inbound. I mean, they inbounded it quite a bit, at least 55 times. if my math is correct, and it sometimes is not. I would think that, you know, there had to have been a point where your strategy as a coach has to change, right? It's got to be, we're going to get this to our strongest girl, and they're just going to heave it from half court every time. I mean, you think
you hit 8 points a game.
You hit one of those, and you've scored more points than you've scored. I mean, I don't even know how you get the 2. If you get beat 110-2, how did you get 2 points? I would be interested. I want to see the game tape. Maybe I'll contact the coach, tell him I want to review this.
I bet what happened is they scored the first 2 points, and the coach was like, "Listen, girls, you better show up.
Show them."
Maybe
they scored the first 2. I got to ask you how you feel about how you would feel about this. Is that the time that the principal should go and fire the coach in the middle of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
well, no, I'm sorry. This isn't the NHL. No.
No, I mean, they're a small school or something. Yeah, again, I don't know of Memphis high school girls basketball. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I don't do a lot.
There's some crazy fans out there.
I would tell you,
women's basketball.
Honestly, I hope by the time that this podcast spreads all the way to Memphis, they don't even come back and listen to episode 1, because we might lose a lot of Kingsbury fan base. I mean, I don't...
Same can be said about St. Louis fans.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, the Blues fans, unless they know anything about their city, and then in which case they'll be fine. They'll understand. They've been to St. Louis probably. No, but what a joke, right? That's not fake. This is a official TSSAA.
Yeah, I see the ad for singles in your area on the back.
It's based off of your own browsing history, Bobby. So that's how they give you the ads. So it also says 3 signs something's wrong inside your dog's body. So it's got the need to know stuff. The 110-2, what's wrong with my dog? All there in one little blip. So what a joke, right? I feel like that was a perfect first what a joke. I feel like we'll be able to find some. If we run out of ideas for that, we'll just go to the Florida Man subreddit. And I mean, what a joke, right? That whole thing, the whole state. So we've been talking about St. Louis.
Or we can just pull up all of Jordan Bennington's old tweets.
There you go. When he was like 12. Yeah.
So normally, right now, we'd be doing games of the week, where we each pick 5 games.
All-Star break, baby.
But we're on the All-Star break, so not many games, but there are 3. So
there are 3 total games, hockey games this year.
So we will take turns picking. The division is it?
It's Atlantic playing the Metro, and then the Central playing the Pacific, and then the 2 winners will play one another.
So I'll take Central versus Pacific because it's seems the obvious to me.
Right.
And I'm going to take the Central.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they have a shutdown defender in Roman Yossi.
That's actually perfect for me because I was going to take the Pacific. So, perfect. I'll take the Pacific, you take the Central. Okay, so I guess I get to pick first in the East. I'm going to go with the Atlantic. I mean, I don't see how the Bruins and the Lightning players and everybody they have on that side of the bracket are going to not advance. So, going Atlantic, which leaves you with the Metro. So, for me, the potential showdown is going to be the Atlantic playing the Pacific, and I think the Atlantic's going to take it all home. So that's going to be my guess.
I'm not sure who's filling in for Ovi, but my final is going to be Metro versus the Central.
Okay.
So we've got all of our bases covered
Perfect.
here. So this worked out perfectly.
Who you got winning it?
This year, I'm going to take the Central.
Okay.
You know, the last 2 years, the Central, I think, came in second each time.
Maybe Yossi will be able to get at least some sort of championship this year.
Yeah. Well, hey, don't forget our boy, Mr. Roham Yossi.
Oh, Roham Yossi. We'll talk about that too.
Yes, we will.
So, since we are not purely just about hockey, and one of the most exciting events has happened this weekend, the AFC and NFC championship game, man. One of those was a little more exciting than the other. Unfortunately, again, being here in Tennessee, I was not as excited about that game's result. We got the Chiefs and the Titans. What are your thoughts on that game, man?
It was interesting. I'm not fully on the Titans bandwagon. It would have been awesome to see them win. I'm from here. You know,
Right.
I support them when they're in that situation, but
Would've
I'm not
made-
a diehard Titans fan.
Would have made for a lot better Super Bowl parties around here. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
That I probably wouldn't have gone to anyway.
Right.
But to be completely honest, it was about I had predicted the Chiefs winning.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted the Titans to win,
Sure.
they had already Cinderella'd themselves into that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that, I was surprised that they beat Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson is not something that you can replicate in practice, and they found a way to do that. But that's pure raw talent. But then you've got Patrick Mahomes, which is a mix of raw talent and, skill.
He's a better
And,
quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback playing right now, and at the end of his career, if he gets the rings, will go down possibly up there with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. So we'll see. I mean, he's got a long way to go. I'm not one of those guys that's going to say he's got it right now, but as long as he stays injury free. That's about how it was a fun game to watch as not a fan of really either team.
Sure.
What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, even as a Titans fan, it obviously didn't feel good to watch them lose. But I don't think that there's any fan out there that would argue that the better team didn't win.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs were the better team. They were the better team that day. They were the better overall team. I know we got them earlier in the year, but Patrick Mahomes is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, if not one of the top quarterback.
And I mean, it's hard to defend. They've got Travis Kelce and Tariq Hill back there. They got Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, a bunch of superstars, and I mean,
The Lizard Man.
You can't discount playing an Arrowhead. I mean, Arrowhead is
especially when it's that cold.
so cold, and you were more hoping that the Chiefs defense would wear down, and it was almost the opposite. It was like the Tennessee defense kind of wore down from the cold, and you kind of saw that towards the end with Damian Williams rushing. I would say the momentum changer was that last run on the half. I mean, Brock, I don't understand what he was doing trying to strip that football. You tackle him there, the clock runs out. You go into the second half with a different ball game. You're not trailing. So personally, I think the better team won. It's disappointing, but it's not one of those teams that I honestly like Andy Reid. I like Patrick Mahomes. I hope go and win the Super Bowl.
All right, so moving on to 49ers Packers. That
wasn't as good of a game,
not
was
as
it?
good as a game unless you are a 49ers fan.
Jimmy Garoppolo had him a Ryan Tannehill game, didn't he? I mean, he had like 6 passes or something. I mean, with Tevin Coleman going out early, gosh, there's something to be said about Shanahan's offense that I think that he could just throw me in there and I could probably go for 200 yards in a game. I mean, it's ridiculous. That guy knows how to game plan. I'm really looking forward to this Super Bowl because we got a couple of the head coaching juggernauts in the league. The X's and O's guys. Personally, I'd love to see Andy Reid win him one. But if San Francisco goes and wins this game, I think they've had a really good year.
Yeah.
They've had arguably the best season of anybody. So I just don't see there's any way San Fran gets past Kansas City,
and
man.
I'm on the same boat. So as a fan, I want to see 49ers win.
Okay.
This will be the first woman to ever coach in
yeah.
that Super Bowl. I think that's really cool, breaking barriers. I'm a Jimmy G fan. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and I would
Don't
like,
get me
but
wrong.
I think that Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce is going to be too much for them.
Definitely.
And I think I think the final score is. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game for
Yeah,
one.
me too, actually.
I'm thinking like final score of like 42-28
Wow.
for the Chiefs.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna go 31-28 Chiefs. They can eke it out. It's one of those Super Bowls that should be just a fun time to watch either way. And
It'll be fun to watch a game where I have no emotional investment.
Absolutely.
Where to me it truly doesn't matter who wins. I can just enjoy the food.
I'm gonna have some money on Super Bowl squares though, so I will have an emotional investment, but more just the score of the game.
Yeah.
Not nothing for who's scoring it.
So now we can talk sports all day. We've done it before. We probably will again. But it's time to move on to some pop culture. What's taking over the world by storm right now is Star Wars, and in particular, The Mandalorian.
Old Mando.
Now, don't turn off the podcast. This is no spoilers are coming. We're not going to spoil it for you, but you need to get out and watch The Mandalorian. Jump on a buddy's Disney Plus. Get your own Disney Plus.
I'll tell you what, if you have a girlfriend, wife, whatever, that you've been trying to convince to get into Star Wars, this is your opportunity because they do a fantastic job of driving the plot. They're going somewhere with it in a 30-minute episode, which is super hard to do. Jon Favreau did such a good job of writing this story. And look, your girlfriend or wife or whoever or boyfriend or husband, they will enjoy the show purely based off of Baby Yoda. Disclaimer, don't come at me and say, he's not Baby Yoda, he's not even related to Yoda. And again, this is how I think you all sound. We don't know his species. So what am I supposed to call him? I'm not going to call him little guy that's the same species as Yoda, of whom I don't have a name. I'm just going to call him Baby Yoda until we get some sort of,
I'm not
sort
calling
of
him
clarification.
the asset or the child.
I'm not calling him the asset or the child because I'm not Imperial scum. So yeah, the Mandalorian was awesome. I really highly encourage it. It's good to get into. 8 episodes, 30 minutes an episode. Great.
Yeah. So now we'll be covering Star Wars for the first couple episodes because there's so much to cover, and we love talking about Star Wars.
It's a whole universe, guys.
Yeah, but we are going to start off strong. We are going to rank our favorite movies. This is Skywalker Saga movie.
Saga.
From 9 to 1, 1 being our favorite. And so I'm going to start off here. Number 9 for me, it was no question.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know each other's rankings.
I haven't seen them yet.
We haven't seen them, so this will be good to see what we're thinking about these. But for me, number 9, one of the worst Star Wars movies was The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi was my number 9 as well, Bob.
It wasn't good. The acting was subpar. The writing was even worse. I mean, it just
felt like you didn't get anywhere.
They forced these jokes. The opening for me, I knew within 45 seconds when Luke threw that Skywalker, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, it seemed like, again, this is the 8th episode of a 9 episode installment, and so it feels like we didn't really learn anything. We didn't really get anywhere. We didn't really progress the story like I would have liked. I mean, again, it wasn't. I don't hate the movie. I won't.
I mean, it had its good parts. It had the fight. What was even the point of Snoke? I mean, that was just...
He was eye candy up there, Bob. He was, if people... It was for the ladies.
Yeah.
they had to get ladies in there somehow, so Snoke was probably it. No, I think that I agree with your assessment, which is why I have it at number 9, too. Yeah. So moving to my number 8, I have the Phantom Menace here. Now, this is not for any other particular reason. It wasn't because I hated pod racing, although I feel like it was a little much and a little too.
The pod racing is what brought it down.
Yeah, for sure. But again, none of these on this list are movies that I hate. I don't dislike any of these movies. I just like some of them better than others. So the Phantom Menace, even though it had Qui-Gon Jinn, I mean Liam Neeson, for that role, he killed it. I'd love to learn more about Qui-Gon Jinn's story and what he did. So the Phantom Menace was my number 8. What do you have at number 8, Bobby?
So I've got Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
To me, it just the forced jokes when they're in the arena. I mean, Obi-Wan's just making these jokes, and it just didn't flow. The whole movie. I mean,
hello there.
Forced jokes aside, the bad CGI, the arena fight was good. The whole Geonosis part was good.
Yeah.
But overall, it just wasn't a good movie. And it struggled a lot. So now moving on to my number 7, I've got the Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Now, for me,
close.
the pod racing brought it down substantially. That was just so bad. Even as a kid, I remember it just being bad.
Yeah.
There were a couple plot holes that I was questionable, like why Darth Maul confronted them on Tatooine and didn't just follow their ship. I mean,
They went to hyperspace, so. But they were going back to the place where they go. So
They went. Yeah, I mean,
they went home.
Yeah. Oh no! Where can I track these senators? Maybe to Coruscant. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Should we go where they live?
yeah.
He didn't think of that.
But it did, in my opinion, have one of the best duels of all time.
Sure. So my number 7 is in no spoilers, Rise of Skywalker. Again, I didn't dislike the movie. I feel like it could have ended a little differently. I feel like some parts were rushed and some parts they didn't expand on enough. But overall, it was a great movie. And we went and saw that when we were actually in Dallas, Bobby.
It was an amazing theater,
at-
amazing time.
Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. Not sponsored, by the way. But if they're looking to sponsor, it was awesome. They served us food right in the place. They had nice chairs. They did a really good job.
Got some free liquor.
We got some free liquor too, which always ranks a place a lot higher on our list. Is if we get free liquor
We even
there.
got a couple free beers.
We did get those free beer. See, it was even better than I remembered. So Rise of Skywalker was good, but I just felt like there were some better Star Wars movie options. So that's why I have it sitting here at my number 7. Moving to my number 6, I have The Force Awakens.
That's mine as well at number 6.
Yeah, I feel like it was an okay opening to a new saga, a Star Wars movie when we haven't had one in quite a while. But there were things that could have been done better, things that could have been explained better, things that could have been, moved into The Last Jedi a little better. I mean, you get a cool new lightsaber. You get Kylo Ren, one of the Adam Driver, in my opinion, carried the saga. I mean, not that everybody else did poorly, but Adam Driver is a fantastic actor and was a really good choice for Kylo.
Matt the radar technician.
For those of you that haven't seen his Saturday Night Live skit as Matt the radar technician when he goes undercover, Kylo Ren goes undercover boss, go watch that. Do yourself a favor. That is one of the funniest skits ever. So Force Awakens was my number 6. You said it was your number 6. What are your thoughts on it? What did you like?
Yeah, it was a great way to start off the sequel trilogy. It had its ups, it had its downs. I think that it really truly does fit right there in the middle of the rankings. My number 5 is A New Hope.
Hey, that's my number 5 too.
Yeah. For the time, it was amazing. Obviously, it started the franchise. It started the entire universe. It started the entire fandom. Without it, the world would be a much sadder place.
It's hard to rank it lower than 5 because of that, right?
Yeah, but it certainly isn't top. It doesn't break the top 4 for me at all.
No, but it opens us up to this entire world that when you watched it, how many people went and saw that movie for the first time and never knew that their whole life was going to get taken over by this subject? So that's a great reason to have it ranked at 5. It introduced a lot of stuff really well. I enjoyed A New Hope as well. But there's always that nostalgia when you turn that movie on. You're like, this is what began it all. This is the quintessential Star Wars movie to start off watching. If nobody's ever seen it, everybody has a different opinion on how you should watch the movies. I'm of the opinion that every fan that's never, or anybody that wants to become a fan and has never watched, needs to start with A New Hope.
Yes.
That's just where it started. There was a reason for that.
But I do want to go on record and say, if you want to watch the other way, fine. Just for your first time watching
just watch it
in release.
Don't watch it 9-1. That's probably a bad order to watch it, but yeah, you can watch it in release order, like Bobby said, or in sequential order. Moving on to my number 4, I had Attack of the Clones. You had it pretty low. I really liked Attack of the Clones. I think I had it so high because of the supplemental information you get in the Clone Wars animated TV series.
Yeah, if I was taking into account the Clone Wars show, it would have ranked higher. It was definitely a great show. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you need to go watch that. It's also on Disney Plus.
If you want to watch a lot of the origins and a lot of how they do a poor job of explaining the fall to the dark side,
and even
Anakin,
the politics of the war,
and how it does a really good job of explaining to you why Anakin was the chosen one. But that's why I had Attack of the Clones at my number 4. So what do you have at your 4th spot, Bobby?
Number 4, I've got Revenge of the Sith. It was really good. It was cool seeing the beginnings of Vader. I think that It had such a great duel at the end. You know, just the emotional trauma that Anakin went to into becoming Vader definitely makes him the anti-hero that we come to love.
Yeah. I mean, Anakin, throughout the series, I mean, this is all about the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
And the Skywalker, I mean, they call it the Skywalker saga. Of all the great Skywalkers that there were, and obviously it was Luke was the best Skywalker, but then you find out Vader was also a Skywalker, and you're like,
immediately becomes
okay,
the best.
all right, you got it, buddy. I mean,
Yeah.
because he's just such a presence, and Hayden Christensen did such a good job
Yeah.
of portraying him and taking him and making him the Vader we know, love to hate. My number 3, I'm going to take us to Return of the Jedi. Loved Return of the Jedi. One of the greatest films of all time. You got Ewoks, you got animatronic hand, you got the Sarlacc pit, you got Boba Fett dying in 3 seconds and becoming one of the fan favorites, and this man had a whole total of 3 minutes on camera the entire time, and it left you wanting more. Return of the Jedi was my number 3, and again, it's so hard. When I sat down to rank these, it was so tough because I could literally reorder these into completely 9 different, movies. Well, probably not my top one, but there was a lot of shifting and shuffling, and I wasn't sure that I said it correctly. But again, this is fun. This is just fun opinions. You can tell us your 9. What do you have at the 3 spot, Bob?
So for me, I've got Rise of Skywalker. To me, it was a very good movie. It, as someone who likes the lore of the Sith, it shed a lot into I think it shed more light into the lore of the Sith than any other Star Wars canon movie. It was a great way to close out the saga. There are certainly things that could have been better, so it's not the perfect movie, but that's why it's not my number 1 spot.
Do you think that it was the blue milkshake speaking, Bobby?
Maybe. It was the 3 blue milkshakes that I had. Too many of.
Yeah, they were so delicious. They were alcoholic blue milkshakes.
Very
though.
strong.
They were very strong. They were good. So that was cool.
Moving on to number 2, I had Empire Strikes Back. When it comes to number 2 and number 1 on this list, they are truly interchangeable. Empire is a quintessential Star Wars movie. It fills the holes and it makes you feel good. One time I'll watch it 1 through 9. Well, I guess it was 1 through 6. Now it'll be 1 through 9. Sometimes I watch it in release order. But yeah, Empire is a great movie.
My number 2, I got Revenge of the Sith. I have it number 2 for a lot of the same reasons that you have it at number 4. I mean, the rise of Vader. You get to see at least in the very end how Palpatine just basically tricked Anakin into going to the dark side. Using his abilities and his powers to coerce him to his side. But to be fair, the Jedi Order was not very receptive to Anakin being so powerful. They were sending him to do their dirty work and sending him on the hard missions and not giving him the respect
honestly,
that he was due. But just the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar.
They both knew each other so well.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to make that joke about how they're kind of dancing with their lightsabers and they don't touch it. It's because they are both trying to get the other one to flinch, but they both know each other so well that they can.
Well, it was why the high ground was the win for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because we know each other so well. You're not going to be able to beat me from down there. So that's why I have it at my number 2. So my number 1 is what you have at number 2 is Empire Strikes Back. That is the Star Wars movie to me. A New Hope pulled you in, got you loving this world and wanting more. And then Empire comes in and it just solidifies it. It just makes it real. And this is a real franchise. This is a real thing. I mean, A New Hope, George Lucas traded 3% of that movie with Steven Spielberg. So, he didn't even know if it was going to work or not. So, when you get to Empire and it had such a cult following, the Death Star and Luke and Vader fighting for the first time, confronting each other. And so, that's my quintessential Star Wars movie. If I had to pick one Star Wars movie to watch for forever, it'd be Empire. No question.
That leaves Return of the Jedi as my number 1. And like I said, it's hard to differentiate between 1 and 2. And it truly was just the end-all, be-all great Star Wars movie. The Sarlacc pit, Leia in the bikini.
Gold bikini, man. Forgot to mention that in my part.
So it's just such a good movie. But yeah, we want to hear your thoughts, your opinions. If you want to hit us up on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram with your rankings, we'd love to see them. But if you're listening, you can follow us on Twitter at PucksOutPod. On Instagram, I believe at PucksOutPodcast or Pucks Out Pod.
It's just Pucks Out Pod.
Pucks Out Pod.
Yep.
Type in Pucks Out Podcast on Facebook. We will be up on on the Penalty Box Radio Network.
So one of another segment that we're gonna move into, it's called "What Are You Binging?" Bob and I are gonna both talk about a show that we've been binging, and also a drink that we may be binging.
Spoiler: they're alcoholic.
They are alcoholic drinks. Now this is a big shout out to Ryan Sassa for giving us the idea to include the drinks in there, because amazingly enough, it was originally just going to be a what we're watching. And if you're listening to us, you're probably already a little drunk. So we appreciate it. So we're going to give you guys some new things to drink and hopefully to watch. And if you guys got some suggestions for us, we're always looking for new drinks and new TV shows. So to start mine off, what I'm watching, and I'm going to bring this up because it's so important to me. When I say this show, it's basically I'm a vegan or I'm a CrossFitter. You know, when somebody watches this show, they're going to probably bring it up to you within the first 5 minutes of talking to them. So mine is The Wire. And anybody that knows me knows that I love The Wire. So that is going to be something that if you've seen it, I'm probably going to talk your head off about it. If you haven't seen it, I'm probably going to try to talk you into watching it. So while I'm binging The Wire, I've been drinking Screwball peanut butter whiskey. It is super delicious. It is very peanut buttery without being too overbearing. It's not just a straight peanut butter. You still get a good whiskey flavor out of it, but it is super delicious, especially if you are a fan of peanut butter. If you've ever had Tailgate's peanut butter milk stout, it's it's a lot like that. So that is what I'm binging, drinking and show wise. What about yourself, Bobby? What are you getting into these days?
I've been watching a lot of different things for the last almost 3 weeks now. I've been pretty much on bed rest with a torn rib muscle.
Playing hurt for you guys out here.
But what I've really been into right now is The Expanse.
Yeah,
an
super
Amazon
good.
original, so good.
Super good.
So I was telling you just last week that there was that started in season 2. There was this one character who I hate.
Yeah.
She's horrible.
The Gunny Sergeant?
Yeah, but I'm now in season 3, and she's honestly now one of the best characters.
So it was by design that she was supposed to be like that.
I also think just bad writing in
Right.
season 2, and I think they changed her because of bad reviews and just
feedback.
Bad feedback, and they changed her because it was a very sudden change. It wasn't it was like in one episode she changed.
She goes from super marining to all of a sudden she's dancing and
Yeah.
clubbing and drinking,
making witty remarks. Yeah,
she's got a sense of humor now.
yeah, it's like, where was this person?
Well, what are you getting into drink? What are you drinking these days, man?
So, I'm a beer guy. I drink a little liquor here and then, but right now, one of my favorites is Yeehaw Dunkel. It's a local Tennessee beer.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the dark beer.
Yeah, you are. And whenever we're anywhere, he always decides that he has to buy me a dark beer too, as if they don't have any IPAs or anything there for me. I also have to drink a Guinness or a Dunkel. But all seriousness, I actually like the Dunkel.
Yeah,
it's not terrible.
It's a solid beer, unless it's expired. I was at a bar, which I will not name, but let me just say
sponsored.
It is very close to Bridgestone Arena, and I get a Yeehaw Dunkel after I leave the Nashville Buffalo game. It is probably the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life. And I let the person I'm with smell it, and she immediately says, "That's no good." I bring the bartender over, and she kind of gives me that face like, yeah. She smells it. She's like, "That's no good." Right. Apparently, all the Dunkel that they had expired in October of 2019. So people, please check the expiration dates of your beer.
Or just drink them real fast, and nobody will ever know.
Yeah, maybe I just need to go to that bar more often and get more Dunkel.
Just get free more. I bet you got some free beer out of it. So this is really what you got to do is you got to seek out the places that have expired beers.
So before we move on to our last segment, I want to talk a little bit about what's to come in the coming weeks and months. One thing that we're both looking forward to is, I have never in my life laced up hockey skates. And if we're going to do a hockey podcast, I might as well at least learn to skate, maybe play a little hockey. So our good friend of the show, Riley McKenzie, shout out Riles Mack.
All Riles.
Will be teaching me how to play hockey, and that's going to be some good content. We'll try and get that up on YouTube, if we can have someone out there to video, but we will be talking about it.
Now, I'm actually a pretty decent skater, but for those Mighty Duck fans out there, I'm a lot like the early Adam Banks, where I can't stop. So I'm going to be flying around there. When this guy's trying to catch his feet, I'm definitely going to try to lay some hits on him. So, I mean, be ready for that. So we're excited to get that, and maybe we'll get into a beer league.
Yeah.
I'm going to mostly be there for the beer.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they just need a guy to warm the bench. Maybe I'll be the coach. I'm going to get a clipboard, I'm going to get a suit, and maybe I'll just coach you guys.
And I think I'm going to pull an old Hal Gill and just have six-packs waiting for me in the locker room after the game.
There you go. I mean,
And between the periods.
Right, I'm probably just going to carry the six-pack with me on the ice, so... But we're going to move into one of our favorite segments, which hopefully will be one of your favorite segments as well. If most of you guys will know us at this point in time. You know that we can find something to complain about within everything. We mostly, when we're talking and hanging out, we mostly just complain about stuff, which is fine. It's what we enjoy doing, you know.
There's a reason why our group of friends is not large.
It's not large, mostly because we just complain about them to their face. So this is going to be called What Snaps Your Stick. We're going to do a sports answer and a non-sports answer. So please send us in what snaps your stick. Sports, not sports. We'll be happy to speak on it. So, Bobby, what's snapping your stick these days?
So this is something that has been snapping my stick for as long as I can remember. When people are at the games, they're sitting on the ice, and they're pounding on the glass like an idiot. Now, if you're a 12-year-old or under...
There's an age cutoff.
Yeah, you can fine, go ahead. Or if the player comes up and pounds on the glass, you can pound back a little bit.
That's like the prison glass thing, right? Where if you don't, you got to touch hands with that guy. Yeah. Otherwise, he'll think that he's alone and you don't love it.
But in general, it makes you look dumb. It embarrasses you, and it makes everyone around you who you came with feel embarrassed. So stop it. You got to do better.
Hey, but to be fair though, the guy at the only one of the 6 guys at the Florida games, they can do it, right?
Yeah.
There's not enough.
Listen, when you're in an arena with 2,000 people, you got to make some noise somehow. So if you're at a Florida Panthers game, feel free to pound on the glass.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Okay, so my sports answer is going to be something that's pretty near and dear to my heart. It's coach speak. And for those of you that don't know what coach speak is, it's basically when a coach is speaking to the media or to a writer, something along those lines, and is basically dumbing everything down and making it seem like the people that are listening to him aren't going to understand what he's saying, so he's saying it in certain terms. I hate that. You know, if you're watching a post-game press conference, there's a high likelihood that you care and you understand about the sport that you're watching. Don't treat me like I'm dumb. Don't Bill Belichick me. It's one of the reasons that I like Mike Vrabel so much is that he speaks to me like I'm a grown man. He makes a mistake. He comes out. He says he made a mistake. He doesn't try to trick me into thinking that he made the right decision when it was very clearly a mistake. I don't like that. So that's near and dear to my heart. I'm glad it's my first ever What Snaps My Stick.
The only person I think that can get away with coach speak is old Ed Ogeron.
Well, that's because you just can't understand the guy. I mean, when
something goes on.
Yeah, I mean, he just ends everything with. That's how you know he's done. He's like it's like his CB radio call. Like he's Roger over and out. When you hear him say "Go Tigers," you can respond to him. Wow, that's crazy, man. Yeah. So something along those lines. So if it's Coach O, you get a pass. Yeah. But mostly just because.
He could be speaking in coach. He could not.
He could be coach speaking me, but he's allowed to because he couldn't regular speak me. I don't understand what he's saying. So Orgeron, you get the pass.
So moving on to my non-sports issue, guys, driving on the interstate's not hard. If I'm coming in on an on-ramp and you see me coming and you see my blinkers on, you have a couple choices. You either slow down and let me in, or you speed up and let me get behind you. Yeah. What you don't do is match what I'm doing. If I'm speeding up and you stay right on my quarter panel, or I slow down to let you keep going and you slow down.
Like you're one of those sidecars for a
it's
a
really
motorcycle.
not that hard. Driving is an easy thing to do.
Well, especially if you're driving on the interstate, and
you could just go if there's a lane open, just go left. If you see someone on the on ramp, just go get in the next lane.
Well, you're lucky to get up to appropriate speed on the on ramp anyway. So I mean, it's crazy.
Newsflash, an on ramp is where you're supposed to be speeding up to get on the interstate.
You got to learn how to drive in traffic for sure. So I'm totally with you on that, Bob. So my non-sports answer is also for being around Nashville and going down around town and going places to Preds games, whatever. Groups of people that decide they're going to walk all the way across the sidewalk. There's 5 deep, there's 4 deep of them. The limit to walking across the sidewalk is 2 people. And I've found that people that walk in groups of 4 and 5 on the sidewalk are the slowest walkers in the world. They don't walk very fast. So generally you get stuck behind these people, and since they obviously have no thought process of anybody else on earth, they don't notice that you're there either. When they're walking and you're trying to do this weird half jog thing where you're trying to pass them, it's very annoying, and I wish people would have more of a awareness in the world, that there may be other people in it. I don't foresee any of these problems ever getting solved, Bobby, so that is why it's in the what snaps your stick segment.
Yeah, if they were easy to fix, we would have fixed them. That about wraps up our time. I want to thank all of our listeners. I want to give a special thank you to Justin Bradford from the Penalty Box Radio for giving us a platform to talk on.
Thanks, Justin.
So, we could sit here and talk to ourselves all day, and we will
We
continue to
probably
do
will.
that.
Yeah,
But I want to say thank you for listening. And for Brandon Bond, this is Bobby Butler. This has been episode 1 of the Pucks Out podcast on the Penalty Box Radio Network. Have a great day.
Peace.